Lukey, good to come back to you. Yeah, so great
Oh,
to
thank you so much.
connect in, yeah, with everybody. Part two of the Red Slipper, yeah, series.
Amazing.
It really is, yeah, about clearing up in a new sense, and you just really need one page, simple. And we're going to go over that right in the beginning a bit. And it basically really is like in this session that we would do just with each other a little bit if I were talking to anybody, it really is about your right to have presentment, and that your right to have a private postal, and how do you do those sorts of things, and how does that fit in? What could you do further, which you could get a bit more instruction about, because you really are a private banker, but you could come to have registration and learn how to do such and things more on paper behind yourself. And that these things which we're talking about is all something which is already pre-ordered, pre-authorised, you see. So you've got a right for an administrative hearing and by a court of record. You can select what this is under common law. You can have said those things, which this little one piece of paper in a second here is going to do all of that for you. But you're going to learn, like, where we go through this one page, you could update your status to, and how much simple that you do that. And so it might be good that you get a pen out ready a little bit, because like me, I'd be giving you just some instruction a little bit, like I would give someone over the phone or wherever I am.
Okay.
Great that you have asked for this series. It really is, and especially why don't I do a little Red Slipper one, and that you'd be releasing these things, because it really is the Treasury, I think we talked about. It really is what's been unknown, and correcting the things for you to be more known in your own self. But a lot of things was unknown, wasn't it? And it was all done by accommodation, someone's signature behind the scene, an Electronic Transfer Act in 2002. And didn't need anything except your signature, your sign, and that could be just passed on behind the scene. So you have a public software, things are going on like that, and then you have a private software, you're involved more and in charge, and you've helped correct the things. But you have this right anyway, where you are. So you have to look behind what words exist, but like I'm going to just say some few things, and it really does make a lot of sense, but a lot of things is behind it, you see, and without having to have all this sort of stuff which you've thought, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's like, no. This is really what your right is, where you are, and that's your right. You have to activate what this is. And so you have a right to contract wherever you've gone on, where some circumstances, and you're not giving permission per se for anybody to contract to you, your fictional self from their fiction. Something has to be really a proper claim where you are, you see? Yes, and so you can come toward what this is, which you'd have to, wouldn't you, if you were a savage, just in the field. But you could see between all people, you've got commerce flowing, and you've got traffic of all that economy, and shouldn't it be positively inducted instead of negatively? Right, so let's really think about what would you have on that front page. But basically, really, it's an interrogatory, so above it, of course, you can have your postal. How good is that? That's what it comes from. That's the court. And then you can place in the court of, and then you can put your lowercase name. That's in the court of that. That's right. And so you
Okay.
could have a phone number there. Very nice, if because people can connect with you because you care to clear things up and stuff. And what could that be? Well, it could be for all sorts of things. It could be violations, it could be all sorts of things. But all you've done is just to do this. You've left a space up the top, like a bit, to put a stamp, a dollar stamp. So it's a piece of paper that can never be thrown away, or anybody who receives a copy of what this is. It means, please hold on to this piece of paper. That's all that means. But it gives you like postal rights and contract rights where something exists. And then you could learn how to be the holder of your name, and then put that number through that, so it shows that you're the holder of your name. Okay, and then somebody could learn how to do that. That's another piece. But right, so somebody could put the blue ink signature through that, your autograph, and then on the piece of paper you're going to have, as before this day, or as before this night, and as afterward. comes now, because that's very nice. How can anybody else say that? Well, you can. Comes now, a man or a woman from the land. Okay. And that I am the secured party, you see, with a security between my public and private self. And so it's not litigation, it's we're requesting an ministry court of record, simple. And because you can agree with what any charge is, you see.
Some
And
of this
so,
sounds like when you taught me how to write a church charter.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're going to be able to know what is in the trust by tuning into the series. And I think it's possible for us to go over and talk a bit about that trust, because it's linking the trust up like what you're saying or what we're saying right now to your tax ID number and things, which we could learn a little about that. But basically, like, you've got right where you are, see like what I'm saying. And so all it needs to be so far is, and then the date, of course, and then who is it goes to? Well, it can certainly it goes to some prosecutor or someone that's going after something, and for that person really is like a trustee, and then somebody else, which is a higher order or someone that's looking over the issue, wherever this is really the trustor in a private mode. And so that you could say that because that's you've appointed this, you see, and that
Okay.
okay. So basically, what have you just done? You've corrected your status where you are as you've applied something that you've asked people to pay attention to make judicial note. Okay, good. That means just pay attention. Something is of really important. And basically, what you're doing is correcting the nature, again, which we've been talking about, of the event of things. So if you did this,
Hmm.
just take your pen out and remember this. At least you could make sure that you do your SS form and get one, which is your status for correction, so you can correct your status, your social security number. So you can help correct these things versus, oh God, I can't use that. How do I do this? It's like you can correct this. You see. So be relaxed where anybody is. It's like really wrong people could be not, but it's really to be able to be comfortable each moment that we go over and we finish a series, each one. And the rest of the things which we could talk about, it's got some use, but it would really be the support. If you did have it and you wanted to have that all set up behind yourself, you could do. And why not if you wanted to? That's all. But where you are, you just need one page, and that's unbelievable. I mean, you really need to. And what have we done just so far with the way that you set this up? You're correcting things. And what is this? This is a notice of interrogatory. So the words mean a lot, you know, and it's in full faith and credit. So now those two words, you've got these two ideas. It's interrogatory, and so that's a heading, isn't it? And then it's in full faith and credit. Well, that's very good because it means that. And who could say that but someone in the private? And so where someone is a non-citizen, you just said you're a non-citizen. But basically what you're doing, how could you be a citizen, meaning a corpse? Because what you've just said is you'll set things off yourself, which you can, you see? So it's the red slippers that you know that you can, and that you're the credat whore as well as the debat whore, and the debat whore is your asset. It's something you own because somebody made money and took money from you, and you want to get that back. So it's a very different idea. You're holding yourself up as a credat whore, and you'd like to actually have something redeemed. If you were going to be the creditor and go forward past it, you could get the money, the currencies back to you, which you can. And we could learn how you could do that. Simple, in one page, by what you've asked. Simple, yes. And then what you do if you like to go forward with IRS forms that can help you liquidate that. So simple, yes, and that you could receive help from people where things are and things more open sourceable stuff that people could learn a little more. But USC 1452 really is a certificate of non-citizenship. If somebody really wanted to look in the words and stuff, they could use some of those wordedness where something is in your document. You see, yeah, where you just said in full faith credit. Go ahead and look up and look at the wordedness of what's on that document a little bit. It's only a few words, not much. Okay, but you're saying that by what you've done so far. You see, but if you wanted to, you could go forward and see that you could have a proper passport and things and correct things proper. So there's a trust which otherwise is in the public, and that's being enacted all the time. And what you've just done by what those words were above so far on the piece of paper is you've elected to treat the foreign side as trust. You see. And so somebody could get an IRS form 8855 eventually where they could help link the trust to the tax ID and things that you write up and your trust, which you can get a bank account more for and things and such because you've incorporated yourself as a irrevocable trust. And so this is irrevocable, what this is, because it can be said. Why? Because it's pre-ordered, pre-authorized. Now those words, you could say those words. That's nice. You're a private national where you're doing such, and you do have, you could say, I am the owner, you see, of a perfected certificate of title. Which somebody would have to say that you're not. Well, that wouldn't be so. They'd have to say that you're not. Well, maybe you're not, but you should be. You'd be, under oath. And you're under oath to we the people. So why not now say that? Yes, that you're under oath to we the people, and you're owing allegiance under penalties of perjury. To put the truth, which is for the beneficialness of all. And I've accepted everyone's oath. Wow. Okay. Very nice. Oh my God. How good is that? Why not say that? I think you should on the one pager. You could have an issue, which whatever, it could be like a reversion, it could be a adverse counterclaim, and you wanted to redeem bonds, that you could say that there if you wanted to. Good. About the matter, whatever. Good, I think you could. And that I've accepted everyone's oath. We just said that. Good. So it means everybody's under oath to you in the Administrative Council where you set things up, and you've selected who the settler is. And so the settler should be the person over the whole issue, like a magistrate or a judge or someone that's selected where something is in some issue that you're resolving in organisation. And someone is the testor or trustee underneath that as an executor, and that is like a prosecutor or someone, and you've given them this, and you have a right to appoint, and now you could say that it's really to discharge all the liabilities, yes, and that the party is in agreement to the fact. What does that mean? It means the agreement to the fact of what this is that has existed. That's what you've said so far, and that's a fact. That's true. And what are you pointing out? You're pointing out that you have a right to something that's gone on a bit, and you really care to be redeemed of what the value of that is, and that's going to be given back to you. And then there's the way that you could liquidate that by using more your IRS forms and things, which is very simple to do. But anyway, you're ordering on demand, really, under a common law court, really what you said, to have an administrative procedure, good. And that what you've just done above there is to appoint the court or the people where something is helping you with this foreign situs trust, and they or your appointed trustees, and then you could use IRS form to assist you with that you could give them that in your packet that you give them with this one page.
Wow.
And so they can help you where things are. And so you're ordering the court really to draw up a bond otherwise that'll help you and put this under your being the principal, you see, and so then you're giving them your tax ID or you're giving them your social or whatever. Yes, and you have a right to that. You just said, please use this, give permission to charge the court, you see, and give the charges to the court, which you have to set off because you've got the credit, you see, and you've got security between your credit and debit where you are in the circumstance of things because you care very much the bonds that's an adverse counterclaim is redeemed to you. Okay, good. You could say that. That's nice. That presupposes a hell of a lot.
Okay.
And how did you say that you paid this or you would? It's because first you've just asked for a special appearance when you called and you talked to the prosecutor or whoever, and you set things up where something is, and you have a right to set things up, by explaining that you're correcting things in a moment to correct your status a bit, but basically we'd be glad to hear that you've got no argument of any fact which is in a record of a court record, and you're making a court record by what you're doing, which with this piece of paper as well, and also every time you open your mouth, you do anything, and so far, you're really questioning what authority is where you are. You will have had to not go through any piece of paper or anything that you could have dealt where something is where it is, because obvious it was where something went on. You could have pointed out something, and how could something happen past that? But sometimes now you have to make enforcement, and so this is what we're talking about a little more, where something has gone on, and it's not a show about what you would do where you would stop where it should be. Well, we would do some things that's like this, but why not have a piece of paper that's behind the scene there that causes you to be put on a do not detain list itself? But you can't be detained where something is because you've got a capacity to put a bill of exchange forward in your private capacity. So why not say this? Yes, you can say that. And now these things you could say where someone is, and that's helpful because you suddenly realise that somebody is a different sort of status where you are and can stop some sense of any arrestedness or detainedness. And so you could do things which is to really drop some adverse alias corpse that warrant that had been put and to clear the matter up and get it off the calendar itself, because you'd be right and cared to have that off the calendar because you are putting things forward to give value. Okay, so why not say that? You're giving value. Yes. How good on your piece of paper. So far we've got very few words, but you're giving value. What does that mean? It means, what that means is you're going to be paying the taxes and you have a right to, and they're going to use your tax credit to do it, and you're giving them permission to do it. Now, it may seem strange to people, but look, start with this Red Slipper event and the series which we've done a little, gear yourself up. We're just talking about there being a private self and a public self, and most like what I'm teaching you is more in the private. Why shouldn't you be cared, honest, which is a administrative council, that is how that functions itself fully as well. It's equity, you see, versus anything that goes on in a corpse doesn't have the same sort of power whatsoever acquired. And so you're getting a bond drawn up, you ask for this, and you're agreeing with the record that the charges are discharged fully in full faith and credit, all liabilities discharged. That's it. And so on that piece of paper, you could have the case case number, whatever that is, or citations, or whatever it relates to on the piece of paper. You can have a memorandum a little bit, which could say, oh, at such and such a time I left a message, or such and such a time I got this, shows that you did something, whatever. It could say that I'm in the memorandum I'm paying with bills of exchange at a third party. Okay. If I could think of anything else you need to have on that piece of paper, really honest, what could you have done that with that? Take the piece of paper and get a copy at the clerk's office and get it recorded there and get stamped and things so the recordedness of it exists. Maybe you get a maritime lien on what the issue is there whilst you're at the clerk's court, because you could do something that's like that, because you could bring that or put that into this piece of paper as well to give it a little bit more oomph or whatever. Those are things that you could do, but you don't have to. It's like you've approached this in a manner that's more with your red slippers, basically, yes? And so, you've got your one page, basically, really, yes? And if I could just comment just a tiny bit about that now, and all the rest of the shows that we do is sort of really about that, actually, and what's behind it all, yes? Whether it's been done as a work or not, yes? Meaning it's been put on paper, but it's like what you just said, I just gave you, you've got the right where anything is, you're under international commerce, because what you've just said is I'm going to be paying you this way. And if you do, well, of course, it must be. So it's a much higher order of things what you've done, because you've just said, I'm going to give you a secured currency, not something which is not secured. So behind the scene, you can be aware at least of this. And so, what's in a new epoch, Lukey?
What I was wondering before is what you've discovered, studied, come up with, and you're teaching us now. Is this both a lawful process and also a metaphor for like interpersonal relations, like how you can deal with people when we meet them? Are we actually going through this process, when we speak to each other or have established relationships?
Yes. I mean, for me, something about this was very evident at a long time ago. You could say maybe 53,000 hours or more of energy of something is put behind this Red Slipper series and my connecting in with you. Yes, I learned a lot from King Jabba, an ancestor, and who is like coming from Atlantis, if you look, and where Mauritania was the Rushad structure, and the originals here on Turtle Island that relate to this in other places on the earth, which could be called Moor or whatever. But so I looked at my ancient ancestor and how he won a court, and where Caesar was, yes, a young bloke. He was a prosecutor, yes, of a case, and his dad, my ancestor, was King Hempsel. And so it's really revisionary in history, but like this is really another story, but honest to God, for me, I 2 years of leadership, more diplomacy in degrees and things that relate to leadership itself, and it's really an ongoing sort of thing. But I'd like people to know that it's a new epoch, yes, and few to be anybody really wrote about a new epoch, but this really a series that is about a new epoch. If you went a couple thousand years into the future and you look back, you could record and see all this, like what I'm saying. That's something that's happened actually. But like what this one pager was that we just went over, we're going to be talking a little bit about this, because why not be relaxed and have more perfect detachment as you are and can, means that you really relax more inside, and it's relating more to you with truth, which is mutual beneficialness. That's what that means, and more with principles really that is existing already, which is your common custom as a woo man, as a species, who really is the. You could remember this. Maybe you will have to write that down on that page. Who is the subject of fact? And now you've written something which is superior, not inferior. All else is inferior. It's subservient to what you've just written and put. And you've occupied the spot where something is, which you can and have a right to. And so, you know, you're, everybody else is subservient to you, who is the subject of the fact. Or it's you. You're the principal, you see? It's we the people, where you could replace king or anyone. Under common law, which I looked into, I saw how King Jabba won the case, you see, back then, 2,000 years ago, for a lord, and what happened behind the scene of it and everything. It was very interesting to me. I went a couple of times, actually, you know, to learn more all about this itself, where it's a bit of a story about that, but that's another chapter people could jump into with things. But wow. If we the people really is in the subject, you see, everybody else is subservient to what this is. This is really an age now, honestly, of Aquarius. This is the age of Aquarius, as it is. And it's more where quorum sensing is one of the words which we're really popularising. You really got to have a whole group more functioning and to set up an administrative council, which is most of this work is really to help our sisters and brothers come together more and to be assisting to help cause policy like you can. Where principle really is guided more, you know, in public affair, and which you can see it really needs to, can't you? Yes, you can. I'll bet you can, matter of fact. Yeah. So it's our common custom, mate, yeah? Time worn, yeah? And that all of us can feel it, you know, like what this father is saying. It's really you are taking charge more of the Foreign Siders Trust and assuming excellence more where you are. And if you listen into this, you're hearing things more from a J.C. Quanta, which is language that adds up more. And this is the new epoch, really. Yeah? And it's gut. It's a grand unified totality. If you want to look into it, you can see in our physics and things which we've got the physics of the smallest pixelated dot. And we've got equations and things to cause time to be counted into a quadrillion units in a light second. And equipment to count that, to spit it out against a hard background. It could be counted. Which is another story, but this is the new epoch we're moving into. And so, you know, we've been talking a little about today, and we've been talking in our first show that we did really about an associated willful sort of attention to red line events where you're established, you see, in what you've said. And so it's once that sensory-based opportunity is that you've placed things more into who, what, when, where, how versus why. There's most people in why, and that's not sensory-based at all. Yet in your eye awareness, you're learning through this work where your authority is, your authoricapity, and it really is nature, like what we're talking about. Everything we've talked about is the nature which you have a right to have established before you could see how any cause of action could have been. What the reason is for cause of action, when the reason for you being there is to make sure that the nature of the cause of action has existed. The nature, yes, and so that's what we'll be teaching. And to come from the nature, and this is what is common. And so it's really the cause of some action, and it's the nature of the trust all of us have, you have, to set this off. You have a right to do this. No one else can. and why didn't, and so that you did this way because you're assisting all of us, and you can hear what is right, and you're doing more study where you are, where things are. But you've got a right to things where you are, and it's very important. I mean, it's not a theory; it really is a grand unified totality. And where a corpus delicti is, meaning you've got no body behind it, only some presumption that something had occurred. Don't you think that many things have gone on where it's under the colour of law and under a dead man's statute, that the dead talk to the dead, and that's not a proper record of anything? No, it's not. It's not verified. A lot of things is wrong with that. But the mind, which is meant and governed and control, and your formedness within your own self, you're coming from your own private property, your proper cup of tea, it's your property, it's your totality. And this is where these words come from. It's really formed, from all the charges which are discharged and zeroed out. And this is the new reset. This is the new era. This is the new epoch. And it's administrative council, because you and I, we are no longer really should be under a crown, certain as a corporation. You can have a relatedness where anything is, where something is, but it should be from your own authority. And under over 210 years passed by, it should be 1999. And since then, it's just what should be a reason why we, all of us, stand by and see a president necessarily being tried by the corpse itself, which they could have their court, but it should be if somebody's tried for such be a proper court. It should become with the people, yes? Right. And should be more an Article 3 or Article 4 court, because otherwise you're just talking about issues that relate to someone's contractedness. So I think wrapping up that one page, and it'll be done, yes? And we could do another show, and what we could go on to talk a bit more about after this show really would be stopping treason, really, where you could look into what's going on in the world, and then how do you stop treason where that is? How do you protect government? How do you protect people in government? How do you protect the families and yourself? That's very important. I think we should be doing a bit of a show that's about this, the next show that we do. But wrapping this up, basically, you're aware because you're associated, you're willful, you've got your attention, you're focused on the red line things, and you can always say, take judicial note. It means pay attention. It means something is really important. And you've established your state art, you see. Now you could think, what else other words you could have on this piece of paper? Well, what are you doing in your action? Maybe you could take your pen out and write this down. It's like you're vitiating. You're vitiating lawful context. What does that mean? It means, well, you've got an adverse counterclaim. It's obvious. There is a condition that has existed in an omission that is to do with the nature of the event, where something is which need time be, that is fully agreed and responsible. Yes. And so that means you've given what this is to the party, and they are responsible. And so you basically, what you've done is you've got a front piece of paper, and it just basically it says you're releasing the lien. You're asking for the release of the lien that we're on some alien vessel, which could have been a capital warrant, it could have been a bench warrant, could be for the properties or something going on wherever, and you give monies owed. In every way, it can be fixed up like this. Otherwise, a lot of that is used to death is imprisonment. And here's a nation where lots of people there are in prison, and wrongfully, because there's no real crime where this has been done. And yet you'd need to learn what could you do, which you can. And I care so much where people are very much to discharge all the liabilities, you could have said, which you did, and charges and fines, and to have the complete restitution, and so that you've got redemption, see, because you've got credit owed. basically the kind of your front document kind of said that, and what you just said was it was in full faith and credit because you're in a private as a national. It could be a foreign national because you could be living here and outside the corps and getting your post that way. And many people could be a foreign national or people could be a national. But each person is a private national, and you're the secured party, okay? And it said that on the front sheet, and you're giving the court subject jurisdiction to be, because you've just explained how you want things, and the reason is because somebody could not necessarily have been under the proper status where anything was done, and I'd say that you could say that you're correcting this, you see, because you come to be aware that. Why not say that in the memorandum? And on occasion, you could have paid various things, and you could say you didn't know what that was, but now you're having permission to be paid this way, and if something was up, give me my paperwork back and I'll resubmit it to you. Okay. Hey, how good is that? I mean, then what you're learning to do past this piece of paper is give them a bill of exchange and how to use their paperwork to turn that into a check. And so you could learn how to just use that paperwork to turn things into a check itself, and how to then send that forward as a bill of exchange. And so you've just said you're doing this to abrogate everything. It means stop. It's right. And now, if it would be the last thing I could think of, you'd want to maybe have a pen out a little bit. You could be just said that, of course, a declared interest exists. Yes, it does. And that without recourse, because it's a special deposit order, because you asked for a bond to be written up for you, which you have a right to do. And you're settling this with this piece of paper, and you're the payer and the beneficiary, see, to credit the depositor's account. That's you. You see, you're asking them to make the memory of it. So it's like, as an accordedness where satisfaction is, you could say those things for a complete full discharge of the liability. And again, repeat it to the credit of your own account, and give your account there. And that could be your social, could be your tax ID or whatever. Yes? Or if you're a secured party creditor, you could put your TDC account there, you could put your LIBOR number there and things like that, whatever. And show that you did that, all that good, okay? But otherwise, these are things which someone would have to say that you're not the person, which, how could you not be the person? I don't know that is an issue where most people are. It is, in fact, where the record doesn't put being right, or did you go forward where what this is? And so you have a right for special appearance to appear in such way. You have a right to ask for a bond to be written up for you, so that you're the principal of it, and you can order the administrative court of record, like we said, in equity, and that you're agreeing to the fact and to the charges to be discharged. And so have you talked about anything? No. Did you argue about anything? No. And did you clear the instance up? Yes. You could say that it was not anything for you to have been in dishonor. You've put things forward because you just learned something, or you did put something forward that shows you're not in dishonor. So why not say that? Please correct my postal. This is you getting the red line and making sure that you've got established where someone asking you about anything, and you're giving you something, you're giving them because they're making business with you, or they did make business with you. And it's a right for you to have common law to protect your right of passage and safe harbour. You could be just travelling, not having been under anything that was domestically commercial in any way. And so what would have been a reason for you to be licensed or anything? It's really that you've got a registered indemnity bond. And what's that? Well, you just ask for it at the court. That's it. That is your registered indemnity bond because you asked for that. So you could have gone and got one with a UCC and all this sort of thing. That's something else somebody can have done and learn more about that. But you have a right for a special appearance, and you have a right to have the bond drawn up, appearance bond drawn up. See? Yes. And so how good is this? You're learning it to be a private, not a corporate citizen, and you really have a realisedness about what you're coming from as a superior sense of it all. But you could go forward and have done the UCC1 and got a LIBOR number and that. But you really just said above there in that letter that you wanted to order a administrative court of record, simple, to discharge the charges, yes, and that the charges are dismissed and that you're using your credit fully to discharge such, yes, in full faith and credit, and the case is quashed or whatever, and that you've basically just said you've given me a bill of exchange, which you're going to turn their paperwork they gave you into a check, and you'll learn how to do that by accepting for value, because you're going to pay the tax for them. How good are you to do such? It's so that on the deal, whatever went on, at least you just said, well, I'm paying the tax on that. Okay, so, oh, wow, really? It's like, yes. It means you accepted it for value. That's what that means. And sometimes you might be just asking, sorry, you just talk about it over the phone. You said, I need just time to put my letter forward. And I'd be clear that the active part of whatever that was, or warrant or whatever it was, is now abated because you have something set up good that you is protecting where you are, because you need a little bit of time maybe to be given where some active condition more is, to be able to assist to help clear up matters, and so that to go into various buildings or doing something. And so you're always putting things forward with confidentialness in the private, you see, yes? And then eventually you could learn how to give a BC number if you wanted to, rather than a social and this sort of thing. But, it's okay where you are. You have a right, as even a 14th Amendment slave, to have this, basically, yes? And so, let me think. Yes, I think if I was to think about it a little more, just to cap everything, you're coming from your own sense of a bank within yourself, which you do have privately. Eventually, if you've got a private banker's registration, you can learn how to do that. You could, you're basically giving an individual private commercial authorization to assist to set something off, and that you have a right to do this. You've really got learning about more diplomatic immunity and learning more about how you're a foreign national or a national as one of the people. You could learn more, like what we did just talk about in this show, to be able to update more our national status sort of thing, really. And then you could be, what you're doing is how you've just done in that letter is to deal with the Treasury direct condition which was placed there, and it's in private bankedness and securities, where you are the secured party creditor, whether you knew it or not. It's like what you just did with this piece of paper, okay? And so you could go forward and get bits of paper behind you to help correct. And I would say certainly the SS5 is something you should look into and quick smart do. And how to set up an irrevocable trust. I think that's something which we could talk a bit about in this Red Slipper series. And it's basically, if you're a foreign national or you're a national private, of course you're private, and you really diplomatic condition of immunity from being held to be as a corpse under some commercial contract, which you're not given any right for anybody to do. But something could have gone on where that happened, and it's just like anyone in their life. And so we all could help correct things, because you could have the right attitude by realizing that a trust agreement exists in your going forward, and to degrees to which you can help correct things for the government, you are individually and you are more collectively, as like you form a GJ of 26 people, and now under common law, you've got these same rights, only you're putting it forward as we the people. And as you're doing this, your documents and everything you're doing is ensuring everyone. And why should you not do this? You see? Because where somebody does it in another way, they're litigating and doing all sorts of things, and that really is problematic, huge. So I think when we come back, we'll maybe see what we can do to one more show today. But we could start by giving more information about what's behind that one page that we just did there, which is giving you more some insight into the page that you put yourself, wherever it is. It had that information in it, and why not now come behind the scene more, and now you could learn more. Okay, well, let me correct a little paperwork behind the scene, or let me put something forward which could help you where you are, so that, these issues don't get set off where they've been, yes? And so you could come to learn about being on the do not detain list, because you've got security agreement between yourself as a secret body creditor and the debtor, basically, and you own both sides of the ledger about this. And so you do as an administrative council, and that is the power that's supreme, that's above the corpse, that can help correct everything. Okay, so I hope people who are listening are paying attention to this part of it, because anybody could say that when they complain about another nation, they're complaining because, hey, these people maybe don't looking after our interest, or not looking after other people's interest, and people can become aware of all that. But you don't think that people are looking at us and everybody and saying, "Damn it, how come this is going on? What's going?" Yes, something is in the private, and something is in the public, and let's care to bring things to be done for in the international law, to be protecting of domestic law and protecting people, yes? And so this is what this series is about, okay? All right. So when we come back, we're going to start, and we'll start with the third series, the third part of this Red Slipper series, mate, and we're going to be talking a little bit about your trust agreement, yeah? And I'll just put some things in quick terms, and maybe, if you've got a pen, you could really learn just a little bit. What's the essence, basically, of a trust? Yeah, simple. Yes? Okay. And why shouldn't you? An irrevocable trust, for instance. Yes? Because everything we've just said is your irrevocable right, in fact. Yes? So why shouldn't it be, in fact, the type of trust that you have as well? Yeah? And so it's setting something up so that you've got subject jurisdiction with everything you've done, and you get paperwork behind it, and so it show it. Yes, and so you then fully have taken care of anything to ever come up again for such. Otherwise, one has been a pauper, and one has had to have the batteredness, and why not say only once somewhere that you're a man or a woman standing aggrieved. Very important you did say that, because it's probable that you are standing aggrieved. What does that mean? It means you've got standing. You sure do. You've been harmed, did you cause the damage? And that could be in that paper. All right. So when we come back, we're going to be talking a bit about your trust agreement, and we'll see what we could do to do a third show, and let's see. We'll finish things up and what we've got where we are. Yeah. We might do another show after that. We'll see how we go. Okay, mate.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll start. We'll give you a call back in about 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes, mate. Love you, mate.
Thanks. You too.
Okay, mate.
Okay, bye.